Hello, hello, and welcome to Death Cafe with me, your Latinx death doula and bruja, Pastel Supernova. This is where we take time to have heart-led conversations about death, dying, and loss. I'll be sharing personal journeys and also speaking with insightful minds about everything to do with the inevitable. If you're the type of person who laughs during uncomfortable or serious moments, this episode is definitely for you. You'll meet April, a vibrant and honest creative who made it really natural to talk about the death of her loved ones, jumping into a whale's mouth, and also going through sobriety, all with an open heart and a high sense of humor. Hello.
Hi.
Could you please introduce yourself to us?
Yeah, I'm April Wasney, and I'm a producer of all things, events, documentaries, films, whatever, life, lots of things.
Yep.
People collector and connector is like something I've been saying for years. So I don't know, I just like people.
And we like you.
Yeah.
And for those who don't know you, we'll get to know you. And I'm telling you, April is a warm-hearted, funny, lovingly called bog witch. So
Thank you, Pastel.
you are most welcome.
That's an excellent introduction.
I know you from time and I know some of the experiences you've been through, but not thoroughly. Um,
Mm.
and I would love to know more. So let's just dive right into what's your current relationship with death?
It is my current relationship is with death is like active. It is very active, it's very present. And I say that in the sense like I feel like I'm constantly in a relationship with death, figuratively and literally.
Mhm.
Figuratively in the sense of this essence of constant death, rebirth, transformation within my own self.
Yeah.
And literally, well, the state of the world, right? There's a lot of death going on, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And then also, there's just been a lot of death in my life in the last few years. Last year, almost a year ago, my mother suddenly passed away, um, and we had been estranged for 13 years. Um, and then a good friend's mother had passed away as well. And then in late 2024, my one of my best friend's father passed away. And it's like I'm part of my own process with death, a journey with death, and also I've been around for other people's journeys as well. And so it's just like death has always been present. And I think in the last few years, I've just really started exploring like, what does death mean to me? And what does grief mean to me? And I think uh, death and grief it's always, it's part of life. It's part of life. But I think more so in the last few years, I've been really exploring that, what it means to me. Um, and it's been a really wild journey.
Yeah.
But I really started focusing in on it, I would say early 2024. I just got really curious about it because there was so much change in my life. There was so many endings, like a lot of abrupt endings. And then in between, I realized all these subtle endings uh, that were part of all of this.
Hmm.
And and then I identified, I was like, oh my God, that's death, that's grief, what does this all mean? You know what I mean? Because I'm the type of person that likes to figure out the patterns in life and the meaning in life. And while death can be literal and figurative, um, I realized that death is a teacher.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah.
Fantastic filter.
know, I could go on and on about death. I don't know, death is really transformative, even when you lose somebody in your life. It gives you this like perspective that you never asked for.
Yeah, church. So,
Church.
when you say it's active in your life,
Mm.
aside of things happening, life going up and around the corner, tell me more about how you keep it sparked up.
I think it's just a gentle, simple awareness of it.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? And it doesn't need to, I think it's actually like death has really kind of come into my daily life in little categories, be it like my spiritual practice,
Hmm.
you know, the weather, seasons,
Yeah.
like winter, spring, summer, fall, repeat, you know, fall, it's like everything is preparing to die. Winter, everything dies, cocoons, we go under. You know, that nature is doing that, but then also we're following along and during winter we're resting. It's winter right now. I am in full blown hibernation death mode. I'm allowing myself like but I'm allowing myself to rest and be quiet and let all the gunk that needs to fall away do so so that come the spring I can reemerge, you know? It's like just the constant check-in with myself is like what's happening here,
Yeah.
what needs to stay and what needs to go. But then it's also just being present in the world without sounding cliche of like, okay, there's major issues going on. There's death in the world.
Yeah.
How am I showing up? How am I not? But also like, how am I being there for my friends who are experiencing death and grieving? Like death, grief. Like I wanted to ask you, like, do you feel there's a difference between death and grief? Like, are they twins? Are they sisters? Are they the same thing? Like,
For me, grief is like a soundtrack, and death is um, a moment. I always have music playing in my head around. I've always got some
mm,
kind of rhythm going on. And my first loss was the death of a pet. I started to learn what it's like to be really, really sorrowful and still laugh and, be this and something else. So it's always playing throughout. It's
mm,
not always mm, the loudest song in my day, but
mm-hmm.
grief to me is just forever playing, and it accompanies some things quite beautifully, and other times I wanted to stop, like it's always there. And
Yeah.
death, or for me, it's more like a happening. So that is the moment of transition. That is the last breath for me, or the shed. So to me,
Mm,
they're different. To me, like grief and love are more like one and the same. So
interesting.
yeah, when I'm feeling deep grief for someone I've lost, let's say my mother, uh,
Mm,
I know she's close. I know she's in the room. A lot of shamans say that when you feel it, it's not so much that you're suddenly sad, but the
mm,
amount of love you have for that connection is present and reciprocated in the moment. So it just feels overwhelming because we are used to expressing the love in a certain way that is no longer possible. So it becomes frustrating.
mm. I really like that you know you track grief as a soundtrack. because it is because it's not linear. It's always there. You know,
Yeah.
for me, like I've had lifelong ambiguous grief
Mm.
with my relationship to my mom,
Yeah.
you know, and it's like the mother that I once knew versus the mother that she became versus the mother that I lost, like
Yeah.
transitionally, figuratively, but then also physically, you know, and it's like going back to, you know, death teaches and grief reveals, and grief has revealed all these multiple versions
Mm.
of her to me. When I lost my mom, you know, to go back to laughter, what you said, first of all, nothing prepares you for parental loss, no matter how close or estranged you are.
Mm.
Nothing, nothing, nothing. And there's this, you know, parentless club that really does exist. And it doesn't matter if you're close with a person who has lost a parent or not, you're automatically in that club. And that other person who has also lost a parent, it's just this immediate hug. It's this immediate initiation. And so I had the good fortune of a few people who had reached out. And one of the pieces of advice that I got when I lost my mom was do what you need to do, cry, sleep, eat, whatever. And then she said to me, but don't forget to laugh. That that piece, that little don't forget to laugh helped carry me through during that time, those weeks, those months afterwards. I'm
Yeah.
so grateful for that because I always feel like in my head when death happens, we have to be like, oh, you know, it has to be so heavy because it does feel so heavy, but it doesn't have to be so uh, constrained. And we are allowed to feel laughter. We are allowed to feel love. We are allowed to feel joy in those moments of death. For so long, it was just so single vision. Like, death is scary. Death is horrible. Death is like this. It just felt like it was like this fear mongering thing. But in the last few years, it's like, actually, no, death is a very, very beautiful. It can be very gentle, even as hard as it can be. Um, Especially when death is sudden, you know, and something feels like it's been
Yeah.
ripped away from, be it a person or a job or identity or relationship or whatever it is. There's this like death can hold you in the most beautiful way. It's
Yeah.
like, I don't know. I've just embraced it in my life the last few years. Just
Right.
out of curiosity, but also it was like, no, it's here. You gotta face it. I'm not giving you a choice. Here's death, 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 death. And I'm like, okay, 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 okay. Like, I surrender, you know?
I think there's something beautiful in saying I surrender because the moment you do, you can actually face it for what it is, and then the curiosity can come in. Because if you're chasing or being chased, if it feels like it's coming
Mm-hmm.
for you and you're running, 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 uh, it's shadow work, right? It's just like anything that we try to hide about ourselves. We're like, no, no, no. And so it becomes bigger and stronger and scarier. And then if
Yeah.
you face it, it takes cojones to do that. And it might take a few times of like turning back and then looking again and then, dosing in and out. You start to get, I think, a more thorough picture of what it is and what it is doing in your life. And it's
Mm-hmm.
easier to look and see details and things and okay, can I can I face you on this angle? That side's too scary. I'll be here. Like you can start to get perspective and regain your footing.
Yes, I agree with you. Like, you know, you've known me forever, so I feel like you've seen a lot of different versions of me, like the
Mm-hmm.
same, but just very different.
Yeah.
And and I feel like maybe you can confirm this or not, but I was always hypervigilant.
Oh, yes.
Hypervigilant. Yeah.
Thorough. You're very
They're
thorough
very thorough.
and
But
resourceful.
but this hypervigilance, it was a form of control because I needed to control my environment,
Right.
because I needed to predict the outcome, and like that was a form of safety and whatever trauma. But I mean, a lot of us do it, but now as you grow older and get more experience and whatever, that form of hypervigilance was an avoidance of transformation, which was an avoidance of death, which was an avoidance of shadow work.
Hmm.
Because you're like, no, 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 no. I am going to live my life like this. I am going to prevent from this happening so that this can't hurt me or this can't do this to me. And then in the end, when you kind of take a step back, you're like, oh, I was avoiding the shadow work. I was avoiding the scary stuff when it wasn't that scary at all. Because listen, like, it's not easy holding a mirror up to your face.
Mm-mm.
It's not easy looking at the ugly bits, and it's kind of like, it's actually better to sometimes gently let go. And to your point, okay, I'm going to check this out. I'll come back and check this like shadowy bits later. And then, sometimes you're just, again, forced to look at the shit, whether you want to or not.
Yeah, and to realize it's not necessarily shit. It's just this opinion you've been carrying, and then you just have to accept it for what it is. And then, okay, like, we use manure in growing other things. So, like, how can I make this fertilize a part of me? Or, like, dig it out and throw it in someone else's ditch. Just kidding. Just kidding. But also,
But
it's
even,
it's nutrient.
okay, and to touch base on fertilizer nutrient, let's look back at nature for a second. Volcanoes,
Hmm.
right? There's like two types of volcanoes. There's the red volcano, which is like lava. And then there's the other type of volcanoes, which is a gray volcano, which is the smoke. And those are the more dangerous ones. Those are the ones that are considered like they create death, right? Like, look, a gray volcano exploded and erupted Pompeii, and it killed a bunch of people with its ashes, its smoke, and its ashes. But if you look at those ashes, how much nutrients are in there and the fertilization. So once those gray volcano ashes have settled, you can go back and look at that soil and look how nutrient rich it is and the types of things that can grow from it. So
Hmm.
if you take a minute and even just apply that, you're like, okay, yes, great volcanoes are scary and they can kill a bunch of people. But just to go back to the death rebirth cycle of endings and new beginnings, I don't know, it's everywhere. It's all the little nooks and crannies of life.
I want to
Over
take
it.
that analogy. Like, let me get real close and look at you. Can can we take that same perspective and have you tell us the three aspects, because you mentioned it before, of your relationship with your mom? Boom, like three transformative
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
gulp pounds of ashes.
Yeah, it was like, I won't get too into it, but I'll give you the top level
Yeah.
of it all. So, my mom was, it's no secret, my mom was very mentally ill, right? And so I'm the firstborn in the family. I just want to say that. And so when I was a kid, I had a mom. So version number one, I had a loving mom,
Yeah.
and then she got mentally ill, and then she turned into another person. And so there's that transitional point of ambiguous grief from a young age where you're like, whoa, I had a mom, to like, who is this person?
Hmm.
And it was also in a time where mental health wasn't really a thing.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
do you remember, when people would have cancer, it was like taboo to talk about cancer.
Yeah.
And then eventually people, resources and funding and like everyone started to get cancer. So it became less taboo. And as terrible as cancer is, I think when things become less taboo, I think that's a very beautiful thing,
Hmm.
because community comes out of that, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
So, anyway, mental health at that time was taboo. And so, version one, I had a mom, loving and kind, and then the mental illness and addiction started. And then she turned into a different person.
Yeah.
One, two, and then the third version of her was who I became estranged from. And then when she passed away, it's like I I had before she passed away, I had spent like my whole life trying to come to terms with who is this woman? Who does she become? Like, which version of her am I loving? Which version of her am I staying away from?
Right.
And the grief and the hurt and the love and the anger is so enmeshed, and it's so like it's messy. And
Hmm.
when someone is still alive, you're just like, I want to have a conversation with version one,
Right.
mom. And then when she passed, that was like a few body slams of shock. Like you're
Yeah.
like, holy shit, like I need to come to terms with things that I thought I came to terms with already, and maybe I haven't.
Hmm.
And that's why where I kind of realized like death teaches and grief reveals. So death taught me that perhaps I hadn't, you know, well, death taught me that it's real and mortality is real, and, things do end. But amongst all the grief, the ambiguous grief, the actual grief itself, once my mom passed away, it was like it revealed to me these multiple versions of my mom that I wasn't able to see before. And it's for me to hold. And also with the death of her, it's like, oh, I thought I knew her, but I actually didn't. I thought a lot of things that maybe I wasn't right about.
Hmm.
And then in the last year, almost the last year, you feel that there's like these little cosmic winks that come where, you're like, oh shit, she's saying hi. And whether or not people believe that, I believe that.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, okay, I feel in my heart she's at peace now.
Hmm.
And the healthy version of her, wherever she may be, is saying hi to me in her own way. So it's like it's really like I'm still obviously in it, but it's like what do I make of this? What do I make of these versions of grief? What do I make of this death? And who am I in all of this?
Yes, I was gonna ask, in those deaths, there's also different deaths of a certain kind of child you were, and then the kind of woman you became. And those are disenfranchised. People don't really talk about those at all. Like we talk about it in terms of this exists, but in the running, especially in a time where we didn't talk about mental health so much, so it wasn't like you were going to go to school and talk to your teacher, your besties about it, maybe. Um, Nobody's talking about it, so you have to deal with this on your own. So, what, who did you lean on? What did you do? Did you do anything at all? How did you hold
Like
that?
like as I was grieving all of these versions of my mom and
Yeah,
throughout life,
you
or
personally.
I don't well, I loved alcohol a little too much, and I loved cocaine a little too much. So and that's well known. Like I've been 10 years sober now, but it's like I used other sources to cope and to grieve. And that was also during a time when being a party girl was celebrated and not realizing that, oh shit, maybe that's like, maybe you got some other shit you got to deal with underneath. Like, what's the symptom of all of this, right? So I relied heavily on alcohol and drugs.
Right.
It's fun until it wasn't fun anymore, you know? And I think that's where listen, I have experienced death since I was a kid, like, grandparents, and, I lost a few friends in high school and
Yeah.
all of that. But I think my first real death of self was when I got sober because I used alcohol definitely to grieve, to cope with grieving of things of the past and things I couldn't handle. Mental health at that time, it's like, sure, I had like a therapist here and there, I had a psychiatrist here and there. And, it was kind of like cute to go to a therapist at the time.
Hmm. Yeah.
So, but now I'm glad that everyone's like, hey, I'm a year sober. Hey, I'm 3 years sober. Hey, sucked doing it, but I did it. And now I'm happy and healthy. And hey, I've got like people are so much more vocal about mental health now. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It is beautiful. And like even when I got sober, I didn't tell anybody I got sober until I hit my first year. I came out of the sober closet and it was just like being sober, like getting sober at that time. Like the only reason why, and I've said this out loud before in public, where it's like the only one of the main driving factors as to why I came out of the sober closet was because people were gossiping about me, and they were like, "Oh, April has a problem. She's an alcoholic." It's like, yeah, but I'm sorry, but you're not going to tell my narrative. I'm going to. And actually, I'm very proud of myself for getting healthy. So shame on you, kind
Yeah,
of like in a
100%.
way. It's like you're gonna shit on someone for getting healthy. Get
Mhm.
out of here. I just said a word that actually brought something up. Shame. So, which, does tie into what we're talking about right now.
100.
But shame, I truly believe shame is a killer.
Yeah.
There's and I feel like shame will bring you quicker to your own death in a way. And I think about people in my life that I've lost, knowing they died with so much shame in their hearts, so
Mm.
much shame in their bodies, unresolved, and they held that.
Yeah.
And what a prison that is to not come to terms with. Like you take that shame to the grave, literally. And I feel like there's a few people in my life who have gone on, who have passed away, where shame became so all consuming that it changed who they were. And I just look at them and I'm like, I wish you could have lived a little more freely and authentically as you, like it just hurts. And like when I see that about like people who maybe are hiding mental health or addiction or like whatever secret it is,
Hmm.
it just makes me feel for them. I'm like, I don't want you to live this one life that you have in this moment full of shame because
Yeah.
that's what kind of life are you living? You know? Death work, what you do, being a death doula is so important. I believe that people really do have more agency over their own death if they know that they're end of life. They really do. They don't have to go to bed with this shame that they're holding. It can be such a more beautiful, peaceful experience. It can be spiritual, it can be whatever it is. It can just be like, I don't know. I think death work is so noble and I think it's so needed. And I just have so much respect for people like you who work in this space in palliative care and all the things. Like, I think for me, you know, I had never spent time in a hospice before. And, just over a year ago, one of my best friends, her father was in hospice, and I had the honor, because it was an honor to be able to be with her and him and the family the last 5 days of his life in hospice.
Mm.
And end of life care is it's beautiful, it's hard, it's necessary. Because at the end of the day, not only the person who is end of life, but the family, the friends, the people in this one person's life all deserve dignity. They deserve care. They deserve love. I also believe that because while death is ever present in our daily lives and all the little different ways that we spoke about before, um, I'll use the example of heart surgery, right? While heart surgery is a common practice, it's not common for the individual receiving it.
Hmm. Yeah.
And I feel the same way about death and death work for people who are end of life and their loved ones. You need someone like you to shepherd the person, shepherd the people. Because even for me, like going through my mom's death, that there's certain things that I didn't know to expect, what to do, cleaning out her apartment, finding the paperwork, doing the administrative duties while going through it and going through like
Yes.
calling the services, calling like the sheer administration of it. And then having just be there for my family and myself. The phone calls of this, that, like it's a lot.
Yes.
And
The act of death is arduous.
it really is, and it's just even like being in hospice those last 5 days, like the people that care, the volunteers that care, like that make food, good, beautiful, healthy, nutritious, comforting food for people who are going through these times, and their whole lives have to stop. The people like this end of life, it's like, uh, it's just really important work, and for me, it's like going through so much death with people that I know, and even just transformatively within in the last few years, just to touch on it, loss of identity. My identity had been so incredibly embedded in Toronto for decades. And suddenly that was stripped away from me for whatever reason. A long-term relationship that was not great, you know, losing a job. It was like loss of identity, loss of relationship, loss of, job, while all these, I'm losing my loved ones in the end, it was like, holy shit, And then that's when I started exploring grief. And I went to this like living funeral death meditation where I was like, whoa. And just exploring grief that way. And then I realized throughout the process that I'm not afraid of death itself.
Mm.
I'm not, because I think like I've kind of not found a friend, but I've become more comfortable with it over the years. And I've seen the transformations that it can bring within myself, with others. The one thing that I am absolutely terrified of is not death itself, it's not trying for the things that I want in my heart. And that goes back to the authenticity of living your life. You know what I mean? Like, I'm
Yeah.
terrified. I'm terrified. There's things in this life that I want to do that I'm terrified that I won't start,
Mm.
and part of that, I want to do everything. There's a few key things in my life that I want to do. And with the death of my mother, and I also turned 40 recently, it's like there's this like fire under my ass saying, bitch, get to it because you deserve it, And then all these other things that come out of death is like my self-worth and like looking at my life and structure. You're like, like it's been a lot,
So much.
So it's a lot, but if you just kind of are a little bit gentle with death and grief and you listen to it and you allow it and you surrender to it, it's not the worst thing in the world.
Have you
It's not.
made any expectations for your own death in terms of either planning, ceremony, or do you ever like, I call it fantasizing about like how you would like to go?
Yes,
Tell me everything.
absolutely. Absolutely. I don't know how I'll die, when I die. There's a part of me that's like, I feel like I might like somehow, end up dying like at 52 or 54 or something. But then there's the other part of me that's like, I don't know, like I feel like maybe I'll make it to my 80s, but I don't know. That's the one thing that I don't know, and that I think with death, where some of the fear comes from is that uncertainty part, right? But the one thing I do know for sure is when I die, I want to be cremated. I
Okay.
want half of my ashes to go into a wild whale's mouth. I have mapped out the
Yes. I applaud with a
but
moonstone in my hand. Yes. Keep going. Tell me the rest.
so half of my ashes go into a wild whale's mouth, and then the other half of my ashes go into like a redwood or sequoia forest, and maybe a little sprinkle of ashes go into shit, what's that ride at Disneyland? Like the space one. I don't know. It was so amazing. I had so much fun. But going back to the wild whales, so I've even mapped out the migration of the whales. So it's humpback whales. Okay, so they migrate from the western coast of Australia down to the southern coast. So there's like a ton of whales. There's like a ton of humpbacks down there, right?
Okay.
So they're all like hanging out, they're eating, they're chilling out. And the way that humpback whales feed, because I love, first of all, whales and trees are so majestic, okay? Like super respect to whales and trees. I love them so much. Like they're just, it's just ecstasy to see a tree or a whale or whatever. Anyway, so the way that humpbacks feed is that they create this like bubble net, and then all of them come down, and then there's a bunch of them, so about like three of them will come up and open their big ass mouths, and then they surface, and then so based on the amount of whales that migrate to the southern coast of Australia, the way that their big ass mouths open,
Yeah.
your probability of throwing my ashes into a wild whale mouth is high. So, whoever I love, I'm going to send you on a trip to Australia. And then I'm going to send you on a trip to like Central Coast, California, like ish, to throw you into the forest with a bunch of like majestic redwoods or sequoias.
You're
That's
throwing
how I
your
want to.
loved ones into this amazing pilgrimage adventure. I love this. Are you
Like,
gonna have little like cards, little and now you do this. Get there. What do you call it? Scavenger hunt?
yeah, I should. Like X marks the spot. Yeah, people, someone was like, "Oh, that's not safe to throw into the whales." I'm like, I'm
Girl.
sure by the time that I die, it'll be like biodegradable shit, okay? So I think we're fine. We'll figure it out. But yeah, and like just humpbacks and like whales and trees are just so cool, and I think it would be like a really true, authentic way for me to like peace out.
I want this all to come to fruition. I love it all. And if I'm alive, to see it happen, I want to document this. This is amazing.
Yeah.
Good for you. Wild Whales Math. That's a new
Yeah.
one, and that's on the top. It's top tier death wish.
Yeah, that's what I want. Yeah.
Um, I have a question because we've been talking so much about transformation and all of the versions of you. I love
Hmm.
that you acknowledge all the versions of you, and I'm sure you got to meet them intimately, especially when you were going through the waves of sobriety challenges. Do you have any last words that you haven't said for anyone, either living or dead, or past versions of you?
Yeah. Yeah. To the people who have done me wrong and I have given them the good grace of peace, love, um, I would love to say, fuck you.
Yeah.
Fuck you. Like, I'm trying to live my life with compassion, you know what I mean? Because like you kind of have to live life with compassion to get through this world, but also like sometimes people who do us dirty, you gotta have compassion for them because maybe they're going through shit and they're taking their shit out on you, or they just don't have the, within them to figure it out to be better. And you feel compassionate towards those people. But there's just some people that I'm like, nah, you you're an asshole and you knew exactly what you're doing or what you did and like fuck you, you're trash, you're a loser, you know what I mean? And so because there's times where I'm like, I don't want to take the high road, I don't want to take the high road. But
I see your spirit being like, fuck you, and then you dive into the ocean.
yeah. Yeah.
Those are fantastic last words.
Yeah. But that's kind of that. Like my unspoken to other people, because I think I'm pretty open and honest as much as I can with the people that I love, and I tell them as much as I can without being suffocating or overbearing. Sometimes I am, heyo. But and I love to tell my people that I love them. However, the I would love to tell the past versions of myself, like, girl, you need to rest and you need to understand that you are worth so much more. Rest and self-worth are like the two things in my life that I have not understood or valued until recently.
Mm.
And I don't like to live in regret because that's just like I can't waste my time on things that I can't change. You know, you take the wisdom of the shit that you learn from the past and you apply the wisdom and experience moving forward, you know.
Yeah.
Um, but rest in self-worth, I would tell my old versions of myself to honor those and to know that I am worth the love and the things that I needed at the time, you
Mm.
know. It's like those are the yeah,
I like that.
because I think that would have helped me along the way. But again, past is the past, can't change it. Today is only today, right?
Yeah.
So
Would you like to shout out any loved ones that have transitioned? Anyone you're thinking about today?
yeah, my grandma Stella. I
Stella.
love her so much. Her birthday's coming up on January 11th. I miss her so much. I love her. I have like two tattoos for her. She's just, she's always shown up for me, like at times, you know?
Mm.
The love that I felt from her as a kid, you know, I think I lost her when I was about 7, 7 or 9, something like that. But her imprint on me, her love, that that warmth that I have been able to carry from a child into my 40th year, like I still feel that. That is the legacy that that woman left of who she was, her kindness and her warmth, those memories. And I'd like to shout her out. I miss her. I love her. I know she's with me. I know she's with me.
Cheers, Stella.
Stella.
It's a great name.
But the before I forget, the one person I want to shout out who has gone on before is Joe O. So Joe was and Magda. Joe was one of my first loves. One of my first loves, and I lost him when I was about, I think I was 20 or 21.
Oh, young.
Yeah. And he was a kind, like he cared about people, he cared about community. And then Magda, she was 17 when she passed away. So she's she's been coming up in my head lately, not often, but in particular markers of time. And she reminds me of that version that we were and promises that were made back then
Mm.
and have those promises fulfilled. So it's interesting, like people who have gone on, and when you think about them, you're like, right, we made that promise to each other. Right, you taught me that. You were like that pillar in my life that represented love or ambition or the future. So I'm grateful for everyone that's come into my life and who has left, you know,
Yeah.
physically or figuratively. So to Joe and Magda,
Thanks, April.
thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for engaging in important conversations.
I love everything you do. I do love how you're so open online about your healing work. So I commend you and I encourage you to keep going. It imprints on me, and I'm sure it imprints on a lot of people, and it's excellent, excellent uh, love work that you're doing.
Thank you.
And there it is. Thank you for listening. To know more about everything I do, find me on my website at deathdoulapastel.com. You can send topics for conversation or personal stories, or find me on Instagram at Death Doula Pastel. I am here for you. I want to know what you want to talk about, and I want to speak with you. So find me, tell your friends, rate. All of the sharing makes a huge difference. Until next time, blessings and respect.